acute coronary syndromes, we talk in this subject about myocardial infarctions. Let us begin with stable angina, at which case the ascending oblique is stable, no ulceration, no thrombus. To be symptomatic must be about 75% or 80% included. In this case, the symptoms come only with exertion, no symptoms at rest. There is no complete difference in acute coronary syndromes. In acute syndromes, the bleak rupture of the ruptures proceed to platelet activation, adhesion, aggregations, which the process continue lastly lead to thrombus formation. These two figures denotes what is the initiator of platelet activations, adhesion and aggregations. Rupture of the plaque, the lipid core inside the plaque rises thrombotic factors like thromboxane, like adenosine triphosphate, epinephrine, or this causes platelet aggregations or activations. At the same time, there is a release of the tissue factors, collagen from the core, also lipid core. The tissue factors is initiate a process of coagulations cascade. Lastly, the coagulation cascade ended by thrombin, which also activates the platelets. The end result is highly activated platelets. After their activation, expose the receptors like COVID-19 receptor. The receptors of the platelets called glycoprotein receptors. We had two receptors. One type attaches the platelets to the endothelium. The other attaches the platelets by fibrinogens. When the process continue and decelerated, the end result is thrombus formation. In acute coronary syndrome, this remember, plaque is rupture. It is not stable plaque. When you talk about the etiology of acute coronary syndrome, you should remember non-atherosclerotic causes. It's a form of spasm with methyl cocaine, which is common nowadays. Dissections, remember dissections in pregnancy. Vasculitis, pregnancy, if you found that was a pregnancy, remember dissections. Embolizations in patient with AF, thrombus or myxoma. Infective endocarditis, prosthetic valve thrombosis, vasculitis, Kawasaki, Takayusu, systemic lupus rheumatoid arthritis, myocardial injury, myocarditis, Nakatsubo or space cardiomyopathy, toxic cardiomyopathy. Conclusion, type 2 myocardial infarction. This is no vessel lesion, no any lesion in the vessels. These are atherosclerotic or non-atherosclerotic, but the result come from supply-demand mismatch. Decreased supply as hypotension, anemia, increased demand as tachycardia. In acute coronary syndrome, the plaque ruptures thrombus formations. We had two different scenarios. If the vessel is totally occluded, give us unstable angina and elevation MRI. If the vessel is totally occluded, give us CT elevation, acute myocardial infarction. Again, this is not just a name but a pathology also. If the patient is subtotally occluded, there is a distal flow, no complete occlusion. This causes subendocardial injury or subendocardial ischemia. But if the vessel is totally occluded, there is a necrosis and damage of the whole muscle of the heart, which called transmural ischemia. Transmural ischemia is the end result of total occlusion. Subendocardial ischemia is the end result of subtotal occlusion. Subtotal occlusions, stable angina, subtotal occlusions, unstable angina, subtotal occlusions, and non-STEMI subtotal. But in stable angina, the atheroma is fixed, but in unstable and non-STEMI, the atheroma is unstable, ulcerating causing thrombus formations may be proceeding until complete occlusions. You cannot anticipate. That is why unstable angina and non-STEMI is an emergency situation. Clinical manifestations. The hallmark of manifestation comes due to ischemia. Ischemia which result the result of marked diminished water supply more than the demand. Typical angina, just remember what is typical angina symptoms. This is chest pain, tightness, agitation on neck, jaw, arms, increased by exertion, decreased by nitroglycerin, and arrest. In acute syndrome, the angina has three scenarios: either new onset, either crescendo, either arrest. Remember, new onset, crescendo, arrest angina. This is unstable or acute coronary syndrome chest pain. Associated symptoms, you look for associated symptoms like pallor, dyspnea, diaphoresis, vomiting, palpitation, lightheadedness, or syncope. About 20% of MRI are silent or atypical. Atypical symptoms, nausea, vomiting, epigastric pain. This is more common in elderly, diabetic, in female inferior wall ischemia. Physical examination, signs of ischemia like new muscle engagement member, papillary muscle dysfunction, SC4 due to strain of the myocardium. Ischemia causes strain, SC4, paradoxical SC2, diaphoresis, signs of heart failure as usual, jugular venous distension, lung clicks, SC3, decrease of blood pressure and occultic cavities. Look also for signs of other vascular disease, asymmetrical pulse, blood pressures, distal pulses decrease, commitment and the femoral pylori. Remember carefully the acute chest pain in acute coronary syndrome, new onset, crescendo, or arrest angina. Remember also associated symptoms. Remember also about 20% of MRI are silent or atypical. If you meet a patient with acute chest pain which meets the criteria of acute coronary syndromes, you should activate a triage. A triage is a form of ECG with intermittent presentation. Repeat every 15 to 30 minutes. Maybe repeat until 12 hours. Cardiac biomarkers, troponin more better than CK myocardial band at presentation. Should repeat at 3 to 6 hours and makes 10 to 6 to 12 hours if needed. If ECG and troponin are normal, this is not the end result. You should respect the patient's symptoms. If there is intermediate or low likelihood of ischemia or acute coronary syndrome, search for other cause. If intermediate, you should, before the patient is charged, exclude unstable angina with stress test or CT angiography. At this time, if you had high likelihood of acute coronary syndromes or even intermediate likelihood which proven to be unstable, that is why you should activate acute or give the patient acute anti-ischemic analgesics and antithrombotic measures in the form of nitroglycerin. This is usual measures, fixed measures. Aspirin, heparin, nitroglycerin, beta blockers may add morphine for chest pain, oxygen if there is decreased auto saturation. This is high likelihood. Remember likelihood, this is typical chest pain, this chest pain like brain angina, but increased severity, crescendo, or coming at rest. Remember this. History of cardiac disease, MRI. The patient has history of MRI, and this chest pain is the same as chest pain before, but increasing in frequency, severity, durations, and become coming at rest. Examination have potential diaphoresis, heart failure or transient muscle engagement member. ECG there is ST pressure more than 1 millimeter or T-wave inversion in 1 leads. If this found all these besides biomarkers, this is a high risk patient. You should begin at the same time acute measurement beta blockers net leads, aspirin, heparin, maybe morphia, maybe O2 oxygen. This is a Coronary syndrome, as this is a summary of what I talked before, including unstable, non-STEMI, and STEMI. You can the difference between unstable and non-STEMI is similar in everything: in pathology, pathophysiology, presentations, even in the management. The difference only in cardiac enzymes. Let us talk about myocardial infarction, STEMI. STEMI thrombus rupture of the plaque, thrombus formations, complete occlusions, ischemic chest pain, ST elevation. Transmural ischemia, again this is complete occlusion, causes transmural ischemia, holds the muscle from the endocardium to the pericardium is ischemic and or necrotic, because there is no systolic flow. This is an example of total occlusion. You show here, this is cardiac case, this is the RCE, right coronary artery. It is amputated, no distal flow. If you see the next slide, you can know what means by complete occlusion. This one, after opening the artery, you found the artery is completely filled with dye, and the branches come up. This is a typical example of STEMI. ECG in STEMI, remember ECG is one of the point to diagnose STEMI. STEMI is diagnosed by ECG. New ST elevation at the point, one or more millimeter, the ST must be elevated 1 or more in 2 or more contiguous leads. Contiguous leads, grouping leads. There is anterior leads, there is lateral leads, there is inferior leads. The leads, these leads are contiguous. If you found in the anterior leads 2 or more ST elevation more than 1 milli, this is anterior wall MI, STEMI, anterior wall STEMI. If you found in the lateral leads 2 or more leads with ST elevation more than 1 milli, this is lateral wall STEMI, and so on. Again, in the ST elevation, or if you can find a new or presumed new left bundle, this is the patient has no old left bundle, but this left bundle developed new because it is difficult to interpret ST in patient with left bundle. That is why if you found the left bundle alone in a patient with typical symptoms of acute coronary syndrome, this is STEMI. These figures show the scenario what happened before. This is normal ECG first. Number 2 is hyperacute E, and the ST begin to elevate it. ST elevated more and they begin to develop the Q wave. The Q wave enlarges and the ST decreases, and the Q wave enlarges and the ST normalizes. This is the scenario by times what happened in minutes. The ECG becomes within minutes. Remember 3 items which not follow or need special leads to diagnose. To pursue MRI, this is MRI in the posterior wall of the heart. You should put the ECG leads on the back of the patient. That is why ST elevation present in V6, V7, V9. But what happened is that true release is mirror image, not ST elevation but ST depressions in V1 and V3. In right ventricle MRI, which is a complications of inferior wall MRI, you should put a leads in right side of the patient, which is called V4R. In left main collisions, you can find in the left main, or this is a very dangerous situation. Left main or proximal LED or diffuse ischemia, you can find the ST depressions on the all leads, but you should look for ST elevation in AVR. Yes, this is left anterior artery. Remember, the heart is divided by ECG. You can know what is the territories of coronary is occluded, because every branch supply part of the heart. Left anterior artery supplies the anterior part of the heart. That is why you can find ST change in V1 to V4. And left circumflex supplies the lateral wall of the heart, or anterolateral wall. You can find ST elevations in 1 VL, V5, V6. Posterior descending artery supplies the inferior wall of the heart. You can find ST elevation in 2C VF. Posterior descending artery is a branch of the right coronary in 90%, but maybe branch of the left circumflex in 10%. By this grouping of the leads, you can know what is the branch to be included. But the problems come with, as I noted before, by 3 items. Left main, no grouping. Left main, diffuse. Yes, this is the anterior wall. I will discuss this grouping later on. This is an example of an wall MRI from V1 or V4. You can find the ST elevation. This is lateral wall or anterolateral from 1 VL, and V5 VX. You can find the ST elevation. And inferior wall ST elevation, inferior wall ST elevation in 2, 3, and AVF. This is special subtypes. In left main ST elevation is the AVR. Posterior leads ST elevation is the back, but in the anterior leads you can find ST depressions, mirror image. Right ventricle ST elevation in V1 and the V4, which V4R is right sided, because this is not usual leads. These are required unusual leads. AVR is missed usually. If you found the ST elevation in the AVR and with diffuse ST, this is left main. If you found the posterior leads V7 or V9, 7, 8, 9 elevation, this is typical for posterior MRI. If you found the ST elevation in V4R or V4R, means what is the right side of the chest, because V4 usually is the left. This is typical of left main. As you see here, diffuse ST depressions, but ST elevation is the AVR. This is typical for posterior MRI. ST depressions in V1, V2, V3, but if you put a posterior lesion with the back of the patient, you can find ST elevation V7, because here the end is V6, but if you extend to the back, V7, V9, V8, V9, you can find the ST elevation. Cardiac biomarkers is very important to diagnose MRI. MRI diagnosed by ECG, cardiac biomarkers. Cardiac biomarkers due to cardiac injury, troponin, I and T more important. They are released within 2 to 4 hours after MRI, but stay in the blood until 2 weeks. CK-MB, myocardial band of CK, also used. It is increased 4 to 6 hours after MRI, normalized within 2 to 3 days. That is why CK-MB can be useful to denote reinfarction. If the patient stays in the hospital for 1 week and develop recurrent MRI after 5 days, you cannot know this recurrent MRI from troponin, but you can know it from CK-MB. Treatment of STEMI is time is a muscle. This to complete total occlusion. That is why time is a muscle. If you didn't open the artery rapidly, more muscle will die. This may result in the patient die, heart failure symptoms, and future hospitalization of heart disease become myopathic heart. There is a scarring heart, medical emergency. It is a medical emergency. Treatment of STEMI, the objective is to open the arteries called revascularizations, emergency PCI or angioplasty. Mechanical opening of the heart must be done within 90 minutes. Option 2, thrombolysis, lysis of the thrombus with the drugs should be done within 30 minutes. If you had if the time for PCI, which is more better, it decreases deaths, MRI, recurrent MRI heart failure, more better PCI. But if you had more longer time, would take longer time to do PCI, you should begin thrombolytic. Don't be hesitated. If you had more time to do PCI, for example, the patient in PCI in non-PCI capable hospital had no cardiac case, and the patient visits that hospital by acute chest pain. On ECG there is SCT elevation. Total referred to hospital PCI capable hospital takes more than 1 hour. That is, you should begin thrombolytic therapy and then refer him later on. Okay. Due to balloon is the time from the patient to come to the ER until PCI. Due to needle is the time the patient come to the ER until thrombolytic therapy. This is a scenario of STEMI, the chest pain, initial therapy, emergent therapy, as aspirin, beta blockers, nitrates, heparin, ECG. At the same time, you should do ECG cardiac enzymes, SCT elevation. This is SCT elevation Coronary syndrome. Immediate reperfusions. Can PCI performed within 90 minutes? The patient comes to PCI capable hospital or can be transferred to PCI capable hospital less than 30 minutes. Remember, because once the patient goes to PCI capable hospital, you should open the artery within 90 minutes. Yes, perform a PCI. If no, consider thrombolytic. If there is contraindication, perform a PCI. No contraindication, administer thrombolytic. Successful reperfusions, no, and the patient had anterior MRI, had heart failure, had hypertension, had tachycardia, risk of PCI. Again, refer him or perform a PCI. Don't wait. But if successful perfusions, you can wait for 3 to 1 day or 24 hours, and then refer the patient as soon as possible to PCI capable hospital to re-evaluate, and if the patient needs PCI, he can do PCI. This is pharmaco-invasive management. This is the contraindication of thrombolysis. It is absolute. Never to be given thrombolysis. Most immunogenic. Intracranial hemorrhage, neoplasm, aneurysm, or arteriovenous malformation, ischemic stroke less than 3 months, closed Roma head spinal surgery less than 2 months, active internal bleeding or non-bleeding death with no menses, suspected dissecting aortic aneurysm, for sleep statement less than 6 months. Then if contraindication, severe hypertension, ischemic growth more than 3 months, cardiopulmonary resuscitations more than 10 minutes, normal major surgery less than 3 weeks, internal bleeding, active peptic disease, non-compressible vascular puncture, pregnancy. Remember, pregnancy is a relative contraindication. Concurrent use of oral anticoagulant for sleep exposure, but more than 6 months. Heart failure. Okay. Cautious. Beta blockers and full volume MRI, bradycardia and the block, because the full volume MRI activate parasympathetic nerve or stimulate vagal nerve. That's why beta blockers can result in bradycardia or AV block. That is, occlusions of the RCE can cause right ventricular infarction as an extension of the full volume MRI. Decrease the blood load. This also decrease blood load may cause profound hypotension. If avoid nitrates and the beta blockers or give nitrates and the beta blocker in cautious in patient with inferior MRI. This is a typical scenario. The patient arrives in the ER within chest pain 5.2, ECGs are within 10 minutes, cardiac gas activated for emergency angioplasty. Medical medication given in the ER: aspirin, beta-blocolol, heparin, nitroglycerin, support cardiac gas, 6:15 p.m. Open at 6:42 within the ideal less than 90 minutes. Typical STEMI course. Again, this patient arrived to 5.2, ECGs are within 10 minutes, given the medication is ER, aspirin, beta blockers, nitroglycerin, heparin. TBE given with the weight because this is in non-PCI capable hospital. This is hospital has no PCI. It's severe will take longer time. That should begin thrombolytic therapy. This therapy gave at 6:07, about 20 minutes from presentation. This is the needle to door to needle is less than 30 minutes ideal. Complication of infarction: first for this arrhythmia, 5 to 10 days rupture of the free wall, rupture of the septum, rupture of the papillary muscle. Weeks later, these are syndromes, aneurysm, thrombus, and cerebrovascular accident. Sudden death is a common complication of coronary disease, mostly due to arrhythmia. This is coronary disease is the most common cause, remember, of sudden cardiac death. In the young, remember, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. This is VTAC. From 5 to 10 days, week to 2 weeks, we had three maybe had rupture of the free wall, rupture of the papillary muscles, rupture of the septum. Usually this require cardiothoracic surgery consultation. Emergent: if you found the patient with either these three complications, you should request a cardiothoracic surgery for emergent intervention. This is special inferior MRI as activate vagal nerve due to inferior activity vagal nerves causes sinus bradycardia and heart block. Again, the inferior wall may be extended to involve right ventricle. The right ventricle is because the right ventricle is responsible for responsible for reservoir of the blood. That's once the right ventricle is damaged, there is a decrease in blood load. The amount of the blood pumped to the heart decreases. This is at the same time the filling of the heart is decreased, jugular venous waves distension, the amount of the blood going to the left ventricle decrease, hypotension. We had severe jugular venous distension, we had marked jugular venous distension, we had hypotension. This is the scenario of right ventricle infarction, is the setting of inferior wall MRI. If you found this scenario, cautious about give the patient nitrates, cautious to give the patient beta blockers, because nitrates decrease more the blood, causes more hypotension, and the beta blockers more decrease the heart rate, and they can cause the qalb receive too hard to block. Cautious in full MRI to give nitrates or give beta blocker. Aneurysm, we had two aneurysm, ventricular aneurysm or pseudo aneurysm. Ventricular aneurysm weeks after MRI takes longer time, but pseudo aneurysm days, maybe 2 weeks maximum. But pseudo aneurysm rupture, it is next days, as I told you, from week to 2 weeks. But this is no aneurysm more time, because pseudo aneurysm is that the muscle become ischemic, necrotic, and scarring. What the problems in is more common with anterior wall MRI. The problems come due to thrombus formations, risk of thrombus inside this scarred myocardium, strokes, and peripheral embolization. Pseudoaneurysm common with inferior wall MRI, rupture contained within the myocardium. This is occur early. Rupture of the myocardium, as I told you before, from 5 to 10 days, maximum 2 weeks. Presence of chest pain and dyspnea may rupture, but no source of emboli like aneurysm. Drizzle syndromes is an immune-mediated, what you call post-cardiac injury syndrome. This is immune-mediated pericarditis, chest pain, maintenance, and stress. Different from fibrous pericardium. Fibrous pericardium is a post-myocardial pericarditis, extension of the inflammation of the myocardium to the pericardium. This is come with days during the concept of MRI, during the processes of MRI. But drizzle syndromes is another situation. This is some particles come from the MRI, initiate autoimmune-mediated disease or problems, causes post-cardiac injury pericarditis. This takes weeks, but fibrous pericarditis, which is extension of MRI with the pericardium, this is days. Secondary prevention is very important, because once the patient develops coronary disease, he has the liability for recurrent event. Prevention therapy used to lower the risk, even in asymptomatic. Preventive therapy, several proven therapy like aspirin, statin, rosuvastatin, and rosuvastatin, beta blockers used in patients with past history of infarction. We can add also AC inhibitors in the patient with decreased ejection fractions or heart failure or anterior wall MRI. All these therapy should continue for life. Aspirin, statins, beta blockers, plus or minus AC inhibitors, and insulin converting enzymes inhibitor. Non-STEMI and unstable angina, same pathology, same pathogenesis, same presentation, and the same management. So only difference is cardiac enzymes elevated in non-STEMI but not elevated in unstable angina. This is break rupture, thrombus formation, support and vessel occlusion, ischemic pain. The result, the pathological consequence is subendocardial ischemia, because there is some distal flow. ECG is different from STEMI. This non-STEMI is T depression and T wave inversion. Cardiac biomarker the same as STEMI. Treatment of non-STEMI is a thrombotic ischemic problems. thrombotic and ischemic like STEMI, but different in no different clock, no iron factors. If you had non-STEMI, you had sub-flow distal, you didn't be in hurry, just sub-flow distal, no emergency angioplasty, no benefits from thrombolysis. Just became aspirin, beta blockers, heparin, nitroglycerin, and angioplasty or BCI deferred until if the patient had high risk non-STEMI by TIM score or GRACE score. GRACE is global risk acute coronary event score. TIM risk score 7 items. If you found the patient high risk, you should begin angiography, start angiography within, not immediate, not within minutes like STEMI, but within 24 hours. If the patient immediate, you can wait 1 to 2 days, no urgency, no emergency for BCI. Here's a scenario: chest pain, initiate aspirin, beta blockers, and heparin, ECG enzymes, non-SCT elevation, acute syndromes, risk stratifications. Yes, once it is diagnosed, no in hurry, no pushing for angiography or cardiac case. This, if there is high risk, begin with medical therapy, but intensify medical therapy like glycoprotein inhibitors, and then go ahead to do cardiac case within 24 hours. If intermediate risk, you can choose between medical management or cardiac case. If low risk, medical management and re-evaluate before discharge by anesthesia. If there is high risk situations, you can proceed again to cardiac case. No in hurry to do cardiac case. Typical non-STEMI course: present ER chest pain, biomarkers elevated, medical therapy, aspirin, beta blockers, heparin, nitroglycerin, admit the cardiac floor, no for cardiac case. Hospital case 2 angiography if the patient had high risk, TIM score, had enzymes elevated, had ECG change, SCT depressions more than 1 milli, and cardiac enzymes elevated, and the TIM scores are 5 to 7. You can proceed to angiography within 24 hours. If you found a blockage, you can give a stent. This is in summary the differentiation between non-STEMI and STEMI. In non-STEMI, as you see here, ECG finding is depression to wave inversion, non-specific SCT changes, subtotal occlusions, rich platelets, but here rich in fibrin. Extent of the disease: one vessels with collateral, very about collateral circulations, causes no total occlusion, more commonly single vessels, no taken clock, no emergency BCI, no benefits from thrombolysis, but you can intensify therapy with antiplatelets like glycoprotein inhibitors. Taken clock, STEMI typical clock, emergency BCI thrombolysis is beneficial. Glycoproteins inhibitors not indicated unless BCI. Hospital mortality is lower with non-STEMI, but long run mortality is higher and reinfection rate is higher. The contrast with STEMI, which show high hospital mortality but lower reinfection and lower long-term mortality. Thank you.